Let me paint you a picture. You step into a project, and on paper, everything looks fine. There's a goal, there's a timeline, there are people even assigned. So you're thinking, all right, let's lead this thing. But the moment you start digging, you realize the paper, well, it lied to you. Half of the work that needs to happen isn't even on scheduled tasks, are being discussed in meetings, but never documented. People say they're working on it, but nobody clearly explained what has actually happened. Ownership is kind of there, but not really. And deadlines, yeah, they exist until something shifts. And then nobody or everybody just starts without a real conversation. No real alignment, no reset, no one asking, wait a minute, hold up. Does this change what we committed to? It just moves quietly and nobody flags it. Therefore, you do what you were built to do. You step in, you start asking those probing questions that nobody else is actually thinking of. You start pulling undocumented work into the schedule, work that should have been there from day one. You follow up, you document, you chase that loose thread and turn them into something that is visible as well as actionable. And you become the consecutive tissue of the project that was never actually connected. And then slowly things start moving. But not because the system is working, it's because you're holding the system together. And here's the part that hits just a little bit different. While you're doing all of that, somebody looks at the project and says, we're not moving fast enough. They got jokes, don't they? I'm not sure where we're getting this level of delivery we need. And for a second, you kind of just pause, stop, and think, because your mind, you're replaying everything, the undocumented tasks you surfaced, the misalignment deadlines you caught, the gaps you feel before they became actual fires. The clarity you created in a room that actually had none to begin with. And you're thinking, this project is only standing because I've been holding it up. But you don't say that. You stay professional. You tighten the update. You smooth the language. You make it so it sounds like everything is under control because that's your job. And you are actually really good at it. But internally, I get it. You feel it, that frustration of being evaluated on outcomes that were structurally compromised before you even touched them, that disconnect of doing invisible work and having that invisibility used as evidence that you're not doing enough, that weight. I'm talking about that heavy weight of knowing the truth and having no clean way to say it without, of course, coming across or even sounding defensive. And if you've ever been in that room before, you know that you are inside of an environment that it keeps manufacturing chaos. Then you already know this isn't just a project management problem. This is a leadership problem. What does John Maxwell say? Everything rises and falls on leadership. So this is what happens when structure is treated as optional, but accountability is enforced like it was guaranteed. And that actually raises a real question. If the system was never built to succeed, who exactly is failing? And that right there is where too many project managers start actually losing themselves. Because once you've been in that environment like that before, you start realizing something. A lot of people are being measured in a situation where success was never clearly defined to actually begin with. And if success is unclear, then performance becomes unclear. And if performance becomes unclear, okay, let me calm down. But eventually become blame after blame after blame. The easiest place to put it first is on the project manager, which brings me to my first principle. Principle number one, you can't measure performance against a moving target. Yes, this is going to be a tough episode today. See, priorities keep shifting, tasks are loosely defined, and ownership is constantly changing. Then performance becomes impossible to measure fairly. Now, people are no longer being evaluated against a clear standard. They're being evaluated against whatever the room currently feels in that calling progress. Why is this important? Because the moment success is not clearly defined, family, failure becomes easy to assign. And in a lot of organizations, that blame lands on the person trying the hardest to create order. You guessed it, the project manager. So experiment with these actionable tips. Lock in clear definition of done, ownership, and expected outcomes before execution begins. Next one, document every material shift in scope, priority, timing, or ownership as it happens. You know the motto here, documentation beats what? Documentation will always beat conversation. Here's my professional advice. If the target keeps moving, performance will always look inconsistent, even when the effort is real. And once you understand that, you kind of start seeing a deeper issue. Principle number 2, the system will always outperform individual willpower. A lot of project managers think the answer is, I just need more follow-ups. I just need to be tighter. I just need to stay on top of it better. I'm gonna tell you in English as well as in Spanish. No. Because no matter how disciplined you are, you cannot consistently outperform a weak system. Why is this important? Because the structure is broken, often gets wasted. You start burning energy trying to compensate for gaps that should have been solved by process, alignment, and of course, my favorite word, accountability. Here's some actual tips I would love for you to experiment. Identify where the system is broken and identify an intake, ownership, documentation, prioritization, and dependency. Next one, stop treating repeat chaos like a people issue when we know it's clearly a system issue. Here's my professional advice. Willpower might help you survive a broken system, but it will never make sure that the system is reliable. And when you stay in that kind of environment long enough, principle number 3, bad environments will make will make exceptional project managers question themselves. See, this is where it kind of gets a little personal, because when you are constantly chasing clarity, cleaning up loose execution, and carrying a visible weight, eventually you start wondering if the problem is you. You ask yourself, am I doing too much? You even ask yourself, why does this feel harder than it should? Why is this important? Because self-doubt is one of the quietest consequences of working in the wrong environment. And if you're not careful, you'll start internalizing dysfunction that was never yours to own. So experiment with these actionable tips. Separate what you're accountable for from what you are actually compensated for. Next one, review the facts before absorbing someone else's opinion of your performance. Here's my professional advice, family. A confusing environment would always try to make clarity feel like overkill. And that confusion usually exists because principle number 4, some people want project management outcomes without project management accountability. I told you I'm coming for you. See, this is one of the biggest contradictions in project work. People want clean status updates. People want smooth execution. People want predictable deliveries. People want no surprises, but they do not always want visible ownership, documented commitments, hard due dates, or accountability when things go to the left, basically when it slips. Why is this important? Because somebody has to absorb that gap. And too often that somebody, well, raise your hand, project manager, is us. Here's some actionable tips I'd love for you to experiment with. Stop carrying accountability that should be visible and shared. Next one, tie execution updates to ownership, impact, and consequences, not just activities. Here's my professional advice. A lot of people love the comfort of project structure until that structure starts exposing them. And when people don't feel safe being exposed, well, leads us into principle number 5. Psychological safety is an operational requirement. See, when people do not feel safe enough to admit delays, raise risk, ask questions, or say, you know what, I need help, then your project is already unstable, whether leadership sees it or not. Why is this important? Because teams do not hide problems when things are healthy. They hide problems when transparency feels dangerous. And the hidden risk is one of the fastest ways to lose time, trust, as well as control. Experiment with these actionable tips. Create meeting environments where issues can be raised without immediate blame. Next one, reward early transparency more than late perfection. Here's my professional advice, family. You cannot run healthy executions in environments where honesty feels unsafe. And once you start noticing what people are afraid to say, principle number 6, your value is not task tracking. Your value is in pattern recognition. At a certain level, your real value is not the task you track. Your real value is what you can see. What is missing? What is drifting? What is risky? What is not being said? And what is about to become an actual problem. Why is this important? Because see, this is what actually protects delivery, not a dashboard, not the next spreadsheet, not these on the meeting notes. They're important, but your ability to recognize patterns before they become damaged is even more important. Experiment with these actionable tips. Start listening for patterns, not just updates. Next one, translate reoccurring ambiguity into visible risk, decisions, and next steps. Here's my professional advice. Experienced project managers are not valuable because they can organize work. They're valuable because they can see through it. And once you realize that, that'll take you to principle number 7. The way out is not trying harder, it's actually seeing clear. See, this is the shift. The answer is not to chase harder, follow up more, or carry more weight. Answer is clarity. Because once you see the environment clearly, you stop reacting emotionally. Oh, I like this. It's getting good, family. Because see, every issue that you start coming up against, you start identifying what is actually broken, not what they told you that was broken, not what they're hiding from you, what is broken. They're just okay, I'll stop. I mean, what I'm trying to say to you is that you have a clearer picture of what is actually being hidden. Why is this important? Because clarity protects your confidence and it helps you stop personalizing problems that are clearly structural. I always say you have to get a point in your career and it's going to take time. You're going to fall many times that you have to separate the feedback of getting feedback on your work versus the feedback on your work. What do you mean by that, Edie? What I'm saying is that when someone gives you criticism on something that you didn't do right, you need to learn how to separate what they're criticizing, meaning the work and not the individual. Here's some actionable tips I love for you to experiment with. Ask, what is actually causing this friction? Next one, focus your energy on reducing ambiguity, not increasing effort. Here's my professional advice. You do not need to become more exhausted to become more effective. Whoa, that's a good one, family. See, once you start seeing clearly, one more thing becomes extremely obvious. Principle number 8, your frustration is not random. It is actually, come here a little closer so you can hear me. It is feedback. The frustration you feel is not always a sign that you're too emotional or too detailed or too invested. I hope that you're invested. I hope that you're detailed. Matter of fact, I hope you have an emotional connection to the work because it's going to allow you to move fast. Okay, I'll move on. Sometimes it is simply your experience recognizing that something is off. Something is not right. Why are they doing it this way when we know? Okay. Let me explain why this is important. Because frustration becomes dangerous only when you have to leave it unexamined. But when you slow it down, listen to it. Frustration often becomes the point that actually shows you where the gap is, the weakness is, or matter of fact, where the pattern actually needs to be addressed. Experiment with these actionable tips. Ask yourself, what is this frustration exposing? Next one, turn repeat frustration into a better standard, process, expectation, and mindset, most of all, and of course, boundary. Here's my professional advice. Frustration without reflection becomes resentment. Frustration with structure actually becomes wisdom. Here's the truth. Some of the strongest project managers are not the ones who have perfect systems, supportive teams, clean execution from day one. Some of the strongest project managers are the ones who had to learn how to lead in an environment that made leadership harder than it needed to be. The ones who had to create clarity where there was none. The ones who actually had to carry structure in rooms that resisted accountability. The ones who got questioned while quietly holding everything together. So, if that's been your experience, I want you to hear me clearly. Do not let a broken system convince you that you are broken. Some of you are just operating in environments that have normalized confusion and then blamed the people trying to fix it. Once you see that clearly, you stop shrinking. You stop second guessing yourself. You start leading with a different kind of authority. Well, family, if this resonated with you, don't just rush past it. Choose one principle. Practice it intentionally this week. If you know a project manager who's questioning themselves right now, send this their way. And for those who are looking to build confidence, judgment, and leadership depth over time, you'll find my mentorship and coaching link in today's episode. And if you're new to the episode, I go by the name of ED. For all you smart and intelligent folks out there, hey, listen, that just simply means Ed. Until next time.